12 years old, as the youngest member to ever be in the I.B.M. And I went to another magicians convention in Las Vegas. I met Penn and Teller, David Copperfield, and my favorite modern day magician, David Blaine.
In my estimation, there are two modes of comedy: jester comedy and clown comedy.
I'd love to give you a penny for your thoughts, but I'm Jewish. I don't want to overpay you.
I plan on living a while. I should probably get to know me.
Do 3 things. You want to run, get some sun, and have some fun.
The amazing, astonishing Houdanny, thanks so much for having come onto my show. It's a pleasure to have you. Do you prefer that I call you Danny Silver? Or do you prefer just going by Houdanny here?
You can go by Dan.
Okay, Dan works for me.
Dan's fine.
All right, awesome. So first and foremost, you are pretty talented in general. You've got a few different directions that you go in for how you professionally engage with the marketplace. So go ahead and give us an introduction for who we're talking to today so that the audience can get some familiarity, and then we'll dig into some more specific questions as we go.
Okay. Well, I have 7 different jobs that I do, 7 professions. My main job during the week, I'm a bartender at a nursing home.
Okay.
People don't believe me, but it's true.
A great place to have a good sense of humor.
Yes, I work with the old people at nighttime. That's during the week, Monday to Thursday. The name of the bar is The Last Call. Okay, that's a joke.
I was going to say.
But I really am a bartender. People don't believe me. During the day, I substitute at Hillel, a Jewish school in Tampa. So I work with old people at night. During the day, I work with young people. That's what I do during the week. On the weekends, I do stand-up comedy, I do magic, and I do balloon twisting. And then I have a couple of other jobs that I work on, a couple of independent things. I'm a nutritionist dietitian, so I counsel people if they have high blood pressure or want to lose weight or diabetes. I give them a diet plan and things like that. So I do one-on-one counseling. And I'm also a fitness trainer. So I show people how to exercise and things like that.
Dang.
So
it goes pretty hand in hand with nutritionists. Those are good to combine for sure.
Yeah, so that's what I do, and it keeps me busy and it keeps me happy, and so every day I'm doing something.
Right,
I've got a full plate.
I would bet. Shoot, what are you doing after the show? Like, do you have anything lined up for today?
I have a show later on, 4:00 in the afternoon. I think out at Newport Richie or so. I can't even keep track. I got it all written down there.
Just here, there, and everywhere. Shoot.
Yeah, but I do a lot of magic shows at senior places also. I've done shows at the place that I work at. It's called Concordia Village. It used to be John Knox. It's in Tampa. And I do it for other senior places too. And that's usually, in my opinion, that's my favorite crowd. Of course, I'm great with the kids because I'm a school teacher and the kids love me and they hug me and everything. But the old people is great because I do stand-up comedy. So for the old people, I do the jokes and they understand all the jokes about the good old days. I remember the good old days, when the text was a book you needed to study and a browser was a shopper with no money and a laptop's where you got a spanking. They love that stuff.
You all had to gather around the TV to watch the show together. Yeah, you couldn't just watch the reruns or watch the recording of it.
Right.
Yeah. Man, gone are the days. No, that's awesome. I have arrived at the age where I can appreciate that, where there are just certain cultural shared moments that the next generation just can't appreciate. And I have arrived at the point where I've started to see those more prevalently, for sure.
Yeah, I'm getting older. I did a magic show a few days ago. One of the little kids was named Carter. So I made some kind of joke. I go, "Oh, you're Carter, you're Sergeant Carter. Who's this, Gomer Pyle?" And they had nobody knew what I was talking about. I was like, I felt so old. I'm like, okay, forget that joke.
Right.
Because I do the shows. Because I do shows, like for the kids. I go, I got tricks for the kids, but I got jokes for the adults. But even the adults didn't register. So I'm like, I guess I'm getting old. They lost that reference. Because the kids have funny names today,
Yeah.
Used to be Joe and Bill and Mary and Sue. Now every single kid, I'm in school and I'm a school teacher and I'm reading off the names and it's like a name I've never heard before.
Right.
And then
you're like, is that even an English character? Like, what am I looking at right now?
Yeah, there's apostrophes and hyphens. It's like, what's going on here? And then I mispronounce the kid's name. The kid gets mad at me. I'm like, don't get mad at me. Get mad at your mother.
Right.
They give me a name I can't even pronounce.
Yeah, mad at your parents. Mad at the English language for having inconsistent phonetics. But I'm not the problem here.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, this is that's something that I've noticed with learning different languages is that when I learn something like Spanish, all of the letters are always the way that they're taught, right? Like you can always assume if you see that character, it sounds this way, and English just couldn't care less.
I say that. Oh my God, you said couldn't care less, because most people say could care less,
Right?
and I'm like, see, they get that wrong, and they use a lot of other words wrong. But I say the same thing. Spanish is great. I know a little bit of Spanish and stuff. That's right. If you see it, you can pronounce it. If you pronounce it, you can spell it. You know, stuff like that. English is all silent letters and all kinds of extra things. It's so hard for other people, foreigners, to learn English because of all the rules. You have all these grammatical rules, but there's an exception. It's I before E, but not in this case. You know,
right?
It's like
I heard. I've never actually looked this one up, but I believe it's probably true that there's more exceptions to the I before E rule than there are adherences to it.
I think so. Yeah,
where it's just it's a weird language. Now that reminds me, I had noticed with our correspondences that you seem to have a more robust, like, intentional vocabulary with how you present yourself and stuff. How did you get into that? Like, what was the point where you decided that was a part of yourself you wanted to foster?
Well, thank you for saying that. I get that from my father. My father's a rabbi. And so he's a public speaker, but he was very into words, the word origins. He'd always do play on words and stuff like that. So I'm very much into that also. I get that from my father. I love words. I'm always like, almost every day I'll hear a word and I'll go, what's the origin of that word? I'll look it up. That comes from the German, or I'm just interested in stuff like that. So I'm always into words, and I consider myself a writer. I write poetry, I write stand-up comedy, and I'm very choosy about my words. I'll write it out. I'll just write what comes to my mind. Then I'll go back and I'll say, okay, how can I make this word better, a little bit more interesting? So I'm very choosy about my words. But when my daughter was young, Rachel, I would read to her stories every night. We had this big book of Edgar Allan Poe, of his novels and short stories and poems and stuff. And I would read that to her before bed. And people's like, you're reading Telltale Heart to your daughter before bed? But so I would read that. But what I liked about Poe, he's my favorite author. He's got such a great vocabulary. And I've got a good vocabulary, but we'd always have, this is back before the computer, we have a dictionary, a real dictionary there. Yeah. So I'd read the story to Rachel and I go, I don't even know what this word, let's look it up, or stuff like that. So words are something that I got from my father, and I love words. I'm a word guy.
Honestly, same. I really appreciate having, which is why I noticed it about you, is I was just like, oh, this is a person who is very intentionally choosing what he's going to say. So I've appreciated seeing that for sure. I think, now that you brought it up, that's actually a great illustration. I'm in my 30s now, so I'm constantly thinking about like the example that we set for the next generation and with kids in particular.
Right.
And the idea of demonstrating to a kid that it's okay not to know what something means and to just solve that problem by looking it up and learning. That is actually a demonstration that I think a lot of kids need more of, to see that like adults don't know everything and we have to learn and put ourselves in a position of being vulnerable to ignorance. And, back when I was in high school, there was a kid who learned that I didn't know what the word limerick meant. And it wounded me deeper than I realized not being aware of something would do. And I reflected on that experience later and realized that like the embarrassment of ignorance is a really powerful emotional impact in a person. Myself, I was probably exceptionally so because I grew up a very sensitive kid. But with that kind of example for your daughter, I imagine that has to set such a good precedent for her.
She's always reading books and stuff. She's into stuff like that. So it did set a good example for her.
That's awesome. So speaking of your dad,
yes.
If I learned correctly, he had a pretty big influence on your business side of it. Is he the one who came up with or just suggested Houdanny as like a name?
Yes, my father came up with that because Houdini, the real Houdini, of course, he's my favorite magician. The real Houdini, his father was a rabbi. And of course, my father's a rabbi. So my dad would tell me, he goes, Houdini's father was a rabbi, and he came up with the name Houdanny.
Amazing.
So it's based on that. But the interesting thing is, I'm named after Houdini. I call myself Houdanny. But Houdini named himself after another magician called Robert Houdin, a French magician. So Houdini heard that if you put I after a word, it means it's like that person. So this guy's name was Houdin, D-I-N.
Yeah.
He added an I to it and called himself Houdini. So that's how he came up with his stage name. His real name was Eric Weiss. And so his mother would call him Ari for Eric.
Yeah.
So when he came up with his name, it's like Houdini, and then what's his first name? Harry, like Harry, because it sounds like, so that's where he came up with his name, Harry Houdini. So I'm following in Houdini's footsteps. He named himself after this. And I love Houdini and stuff like that because he was such a great showman. He wasn't just a great magician, but he was really good at publicizing and promoting himself and doing these stunts. He'd go to cities and stuff and jump off bridges and stuff, tied up in the water, and do like hanging from a rope, and he'd do like a escape from a thing, just dramatic things like that. Go into a jail cell, go ahead, lock me up. They'd walk away. He'd get out of the jail and get out of handcuffs and stuff. So that's what I admire most, because I'm not good at that. I'm a good magician, and I'm a good comedian, I'm a lot of things like that, but I'm not good at promoting myself, especially in this day and age with the social media and stuff. So I need to hire you as my tech guy to promote me and stuff. And that's why I'm so happy. I'm so grateful to you for giving me this podcast, chance to get my word out there and spread the word, because I have a very unique thing that I do. I'm the nutrition magician.
Right.
So for kids, like I said, I have two different shows. For children, I talk about eating healthy, exercising, avoiding peer pressure, listening to your body, things like that. But I make it fun. It's not a boring lecture. Okay, kids, you need to eat. It's not like that. It's incorporated into the magic stuff like that, and I get the kids involved, and they love it and stuff. And as I said, they come up and they hug me, and it's great. And the parents come up after the show and they go, it's great. You're doing the magic and you're entertaining the kids, but you also give them that positive message about being healthy and stuff like that. Avoiding
There's layers to it.
Bad habits and the cigarettes and I have all kinds of stuff. I as I said, I incorporate into it. So it's really a great thing. And they always come up and they go, the kids love the show. I think the parents loved it even more because I'm doing jokes and they appreciate my showmanship and my dexterity and stuff. I said, I have the best time of all. When I do magic, it's like my favorite thing to do. I get paid. I got the best job in the world. I get paid to make people happy. And it brings me such pleasure to see the smiles on the kids' faces, or for the old people to see them light up and stuff like that. And they're like smiling, and it brings out the little kid in them. So it gives me a great deal of pleasure to be able to do that.
Yeah. No, it's such a gift. You brought up something that I was curious about. What's the science behind incorporating teaching lessons without making it come across as just a lectoral lesson? How do you incorporate things like nutritional lessons without making it come across like you're just talking at the kids?
I'm going to show you right now.
Yes, please.
I'm going to show you right now. I do a lot of tricks. I tell people I do tricks with coins, illusions with rope, and miracles with a deck of cards. But anyways, so this is an example of what I do. I say I've got two heroes. One of my heroes is Houdini, and my other hero is a guy named Jack LaLanne. People's like, Jack LaLanne. The older people might have heard of him. Have you ever heard of Jack LaLanne? No. The jumping jack is named after Jack LaLanne.
Oh.
Jack LaLanne is called the godfather of fitness. He opened the first gym in America back in the 1930s. When the doctors were saying, don't exercise, it's bad for you, you're going to have heart attacks, you're going to be muscle bound. He's like, no, it's good for you. And to prove it, every year for his birthday, he'd do an amazing physical stunt. For his 70th birthday, he pulled 70 tugboats from Alcatraz to San Francisco while being handcuffed and shackled. You can see it on YouTube. It's true. So it was amazing.
Okay. I'm definitely looking that one up.
He's one of my heroes. My mom had the show on every day, the Jack LaLanne show. It starts off with him doing jumping jacks and stuff like that. And he was great. He was all about natural stuff, just, doing exercise like lifting off a chair or taking a broomstick, not necessarily going to the gym. And that's how I work out now. Yeah. I used to go to the gym, but I don't go to the gym anymore. I exercise. I'm a gymnast. I go to the park and I do chin-ups and I do handstands and stuff like that. But anyway, so I talk about Jack LaLanne and Houdini. Now I said Jack LaLanne, I try to combine the showmanship of Houdini and the passion of Jack LaLanne to get my message across. Now Jack LaLanne said exercise is king, nutrition is queen. Put them together, you've got a kingdom. So I tell the kids, okay, now pay attention. It's going to be a quiz. Okay. I say, okay, exercise is king. And I hold up the King of Hearts and I say, this represents exercise. Now, why King of Hearts? Because when you exercise, you want to get your heart beating fast.
Smart.
So I say, exercise is king. I say, now, if you want to be healthy, you want to stay young, as I said, you want to do 3 things. You want to run, get some sun, and have some fun. Mm-hmm. So every day you want to run, get some activity, get some sun, get some fresh air. Don't sit inside all day playing with a computer, and have some fun. Be a kid. Said most people, by the time they grow up, they don't want to go outside and play. They're like, I don't want to do that. It's unpleasant. But little kids, you don't have to tell them to exercise. You just let them loose on the playground. They go running and jumping and stuff like that, which is how I exercise. So I say, okay, pay attention. We're going to put the king over here. Yeah, exercise is king. Now, exercise is king. Nutrition is queen. So for the queen, I use the queen of spades. And I say, why spades? Because a spade is a tool that you use in the garden. So this reminds you you're supposed to eat lots of healthy foods, okay? Lots of fruits and vegetables. You can also eat a little bit of meat, too. I eat a little bit of meat, too. I'm part of the Meat Too movement. But anyways, so I have little jokes like that, and the adults get it, and it goes over the kids, and they don't know what I'm talking about. So I say, pay attention, kids. Exercise is king. Nutrition is queen. Put them together, you've got a king. And I put the queen over here. Now I tell them, I say, okay, you guys ready for a quiz? They go, yeah. I said, okay, what card represents exercise over here? And they go, the King of Hearts, right. And what card over here represents nutrition? Queen of Spades, right. Okay. I say, but Houdini, my idol, his favorite or his signature trick he did was called metamorphosis. He'd bring his wife out on the stage, put her name was Bess. It was his assistant. He put her in this really big wooden box, put her inside there, close it up, put ropes and chains and lock it up. Then Houdini would stand on top of the box and then pull up a big sheet. And when the sheet came down, Bess was standing on top of the box. And when they took the ropes and chains and opened the box, they switched places. Mm-hmm. He called that metamorphosis. So, well, I'm not as good as Houdini, but I'm going to try and make these cards switch places because they represent a king and a queen. I said, okay, you ready? Here we go. And I take out my magic wand. I go switch. I go, okay, what was over here was the King of Hearts. Spades, and what was over the queen, and there's the King of Hearts. So that's an example of how I get the healthy message in there.
Yeah.
But I freak them out and they go, what?
No way.
But when I do it for the show, I have them. One of the kids put his hand on each card. Put your hand on that card. Don't take it off. Stuff like that. So
right.
That's an example of how I get the healthy message in there.
Oh man, that's so cool. See. That's showmanship. That's good. I always love seeing good examples of it because a lot of times it can be so easy to just do a job, where that trick, it can still function without, any of the story behind it or anything else. But like having that extra emotional connection to it and the lesson, that's such a cool way to come at it. What was it that got you into magic in the first place? What was that moment for you?
Good question. I was always very curious when I was young. I always wanted to know how things are done. Like, how do they do that? Or how does this work? Or so. I was very curious. So when I was about 5 years old, I showed an interest in magic. My father bought me about 10 books on magic. And of course, I read all the books and stuff. And people would come over to the house and I do tricks for them, mostly card tricks and other things like that, coin tricks and stuff like that. And when I became 12 years old, I lived in Stamford, Connecticut. I joined the I.B.M. Now, in order to join this, the International Brotherhood of Magicians, to join this organization, it's kind of nerve-wracking. You have to do a magic show for other magicians, for professional magicians. Then they judge you and say, how good are you, and vote to see if you are good enough to be a member of this group. Right. I was 12 years old. I did my magic show. They voted. I got accepted into the group. Sick. And then immediately you take an oath. You take a promise not to reveal secrets to anybody. Right. That's not a member of that group. 12 years old is the youngest member to ever be in the I.B.M. I became a professional and then started doing shows for get paid, mostly birthday parties. And a lot of times the children were older than me. I was 12, the kid's 14 or 15. My mom would drive me to the show and stuff like that. And my mom also was my wizard. And I still do this trick. It's really a cool trick. I have the birthday child pick a card out of the deck, and then I don't talk, and then they call the wizard on the phone. They speak to the wizard. I don't even talk to the wizard. And they say, what card did I pick? And then my mom says, oh, you picked the 5 of hearts or whatever it is and stuff like that. I still do that. Now I use my daughter for the wizard and stuff. In fact, on my phone, I have her listed as the wizard. So I say, listen, we're going to call the wizard. I say, you guys into Harry Potter? And then I do quotes. I quote a lot of people. I say, Harry Potter, the author, J.K. Rowling, she had a great quote as a school teacher. She says, I don't believe in the kind of magic in my books, but I believe something very magical can happen when you read a good book, so which is a great quote. So I'm always quoting people. I quote Walt Disney and stuff.
you seem pretty well read in general. You seem like a reader.
Yes, I do read all the time.
What's your policy on reading? Do you try to do like a few books a year? Do you is it just by inspiration you find a good book, you just compulsively read it? Like what is that relationship with books for you?
I don't read novels because for some reason, I don't know why, there's something about my brain that's different than most people. I have trouble following along. Like I'll be reading a novel and I'm into the third chapter and they go, and then Dave asked Melissa. I'm like, who's Melissa? And I have to go back.
Oh, no.
Same thing with movies. If I watch a movie, I have to watch like 3 or 4 times or ask, why did he do that? And I'm like,
Who's this character
I
again?
have trouble following the plot, and same thing with novels. So I don't read novels. I read a lot of stuff, biographies about people and stuff like that. But I don't have a set thing that I do, but I do read almost every day. A lot of times I'm on the internet. I'm a member of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, so I read nutrition articles, especially ones dealing with childhood obesity, things like that. That's my focus. That's why I became a nutritionist, because the kids today, as you know, they don't exercise. They're drinking all these big power drinks, and the obesity epidemic is terrible. The funny thing is, I'm a magician. I'm very good at misdirecting people, but I'm easily misdirected or distracted. I'm not a monotasker, as you see. I focus on one thing at a time, but I'm easily sidetracked. Oh, what was that? You'll say, and then I forget what I'm doing and stuff like that. So I tell people I'm a mono. I do one thing at a time. When I'm done with that, I focus everything, and then I do the next thing. I don't do like 3 or 4 things. I'm not good at that at all.
Yeah, I heard that from a psychological perspective, there isn't really any such thing as genuine multitasking.
That's true.
All you can really do is do multiple things less effectively than if you were doing one of them focusedly.
I've read that too.
Yeah, it's like some people might have a higher average than other people do, but nobody's able to do multiple things as well as they could have done it if they just did one thing at a time.
And the other thing is, I read the same thing that you're talking about. The people that think they're really good at it are actually not good. They're not as good at it. They think they're great at multitasking. Those are the people that are not so good at it.
Yeah. It's like it just hasn't caught up with them yet. Regarding the obesity epidemic,
yes,
3 years ago, I flew over to China for a month. When I came back, I immediately noticed something. So, traveling around in China, first of all, I didn't see a single person in a wheelchair or crutches or just any disability whatsoever. And what my friend was telling me was that there's a lot of cultural stigma against displaying disability in public.
Right.
And that a lot of places, like here, we have rules about having a business that has like wheelchair accessibility.
Right.
And a business can actually get in trouble if they don't. In China, they don't have that, or at least they're not in the city that I was going to, apparently, because there was just tons of businesses that only had stairs, or just you could tell was just clearly not accessible. And so that's one of the good sides of the more affirmative culture that we have here, is that we do try our best to think of the little guy, think of the people who are struggling and that kind of stuff. But on the other hand, I also didn't see anybody who was notably overweight. I was actually probably like the most overweight person there, and I'm not chunky by any stand, but I was like, man, what is happening over here? I flew around a couple of times, and it wasn't until I got back, when I landed back in LA to take my flight back here, that it really dawned on me how much of a difference it was. Because the first plane that I took, once I landed in America again, at least a third of the plane was overweight. And it was just immediately noticeable because I'd spend a month, not around that.
Right.
And so
it was
just
shocking when you were,
oh my gosh. And because I had just tuned it out up until that point. And it is a significant problem. And so hearing that that's a desire of yours to help with staving off that and to promote a better culture is such a noble goal that I'm so thrilled to hear that everybody needs to be on board, with trying to promote more healthy practices for everyone, for sure.
And that's part of my mission. As I said, that's my passion, is to, as I said, with my unique skills, because I do it in a different way than other people. I have a nutrition degree, but I'm not really, I use it for the magic and I use it stuff like that. But as I said, I have a unique approach and I make it fun and I spread the message and stuff like that. But talking about what you were talking about. My daughter, she travels all over the world and stuff all the time. She went to Japan recently. Same thing. She says, you don't see any overweight people. I went to Europe a couple of years ago with my daughter and stuff. I noticed the same thing even in Europe. You know, you're walking in France or England, you're walking down the street, very few overweight people and a lot of bicycles. You know, everybody's riding their bicycle and stuff like that, which I do, of course, every day. But the obesity epidemic, I saw a photograph of my third grade class recently. There wasn't one fat kid. Now, the statistics are so alarming. That's what I read, all these articles. It's like half the kids now are overweight. A third of them are obese.
Yeah.
So you're talking about an 8-9-year-old kid who's already obese. His whole life is messed up now. Now he's going to have high blood pressure and heart disease and every diabetes.
To sugar.
Yeah, it's just terrible with the diet and stuff like that. So I try to fight that in my own unique way. As I said, I say that our students are getting larger. Our pupils are dilating. So I have little catchphrases that I use to kind of get the kids, and I say, and that's like I said, my mission. I want to start maybe a new trend, maybe called Techless Tuesday. One day out of the week where the kids don't diddle their devices and play with the computers and all that other stuff.
Just to engage with the world.
Right. And I tell the kids, instead of the Xbox, go to the sandbox. Instead of the PlayStation, go to the playground. I said, that's how I exercise. I don't go to the gym. I go to the jungle gym. I'm a monkey. I go on the monkey bars and I do chin-ups and I swing. I tell people, I say, and monkeys are really strong.
Yeah.
They're super strong. Chimpanzees, they're very strong. How do they get strong? I've never seen a chimpanzee at the gym.
No.
No, they get strong by swinging from trees and things naturally. That's how I exercise also. I don't, as I said, I used to go to the gym, but I don't anymore.
Yeah.
So I teach when I do my training and stuff like that. Oh, I don't want to spend all that money. I got to go to the gym and put on the outfit and drive the thing and then take the shower. You don't have to do all that. Just get a bike. All you need is a bicycle, ride your bike, go to the playground like I do, and just work out with the kids. Do it naturally and stuff. So that's my message.
So you're a calisthenics guy.
Yes, you could call it that. Yes. And that's what I do when I'm at Hillel at the Jewish school. I'm a PE coach. I teach science. So I get the kids out on the playground and I just let them be free to do what they want. It's not so structured. Right. Okay, you got to do this. You stepped outside the line. You're in timeout. Right. There's no rules. Just go out
Make
and
sure
play.
you count how many monkey bars you swing between.
Right. And the kids, like the example I give is like, adults, they don't want to exercise. They look at it as something unpleasant. Oh, I got to go to the gym and sweat. Little kids, that's all they want to do is exercise. I just saw some kids out here before I came in here. Little kids running around, and the mother goes, sit down. No, it's not natural for a 4-year-old to sit still. Yeah. But that's what we do. That's what our schools do. Yep. And I understand why they have to do it. They have to have order. But it's not natural for a 7-year-old kid to sit still for 5 hours a day. And then when he wants to run around and be active, oh, you've got ADD, we got to give you some Ritalin.
Got to start throwing some pills down your throat.
Big Pharma comes into the thing. It's very scary. So that's what I'm fighting right there. That's my mission.
I hear that. Yeah, and oh my gosh, when it comes to pharmaceuticals, we have really lost the plot when it comes to natural medicine because, I mean, for all of human history, people have been looking into what different vegetation is able to do, different kinds of mushrooms and roots and leaves and whatever
like else. The American Indians and all those guys, right? Yeah.
Well, literally all over. You've got ancient Chinese medicine. You've got the Native Americans. Even in Europe, when we talk about things like witchcraft, there were times. Now there were times when people were probably delving into some occultish practices, but there were also some times when people were just gifted with phenomena, things like people who were just clever about mixing different things together to create an interesting reaction that other people didn't understand, or people who made medicines that people didn't really understand why they had the psychedelic effects that they might have had, when it's like, no, that's just what the plant does. It had nothing to do with the person behind it. Right. So yeah, We've gone a far way. I think pharma, if I'm not mistaken, the root word for that is like magic or something along those lines, like the actual etymology.
Interesting. I have to look that one up. I didn't know that one.
Strongly recommend looking into this because if I'm not mistaken, the word pharmaceutical comes from the concept of magic, and actual witchcraft.
That's fast. I'm learning something. That's great. And I like to learn stuff. That's really cool.
Definitely look into that one for sure, because that's a great tool to put in your pocket for sure.
But I sent you that video. I just did a comedy show about a week ago, and I had this whole spiel. I do a whole comedy bit about big pharma and how they when diet and exercise is enough, then they give you all these side effects and everything like that.
And I saw you had the big old long list of things.
They're so powerful because when I was younger, they weren't allowed to advertise, but now they own Congress with they have so much money, they have billions, and they campaign funds. So they had Congress change the rules so that now they can advertise. Yeah. And again, same thing with the lawyers. Lawyers you never saw lawyer commercial attorneys. Now that's all you see is the big pharma, and they're so powerful. They actually pressure. I've read articles and stuff where they actually pressure these parents. You got to get your kid on this stuff. And if you don't, your kid's going to be expelled from school or you're going to be punished. So that's how powerful they are. They control the school system. They control everything.
I was just talking with someone about insurance, having different kinds of compulsory insurance and how the bigger issue than having greedy companies is having the legal compulsion to purchase their product. That with, car insurance, you can't not have car insurance. With home insurance, there's some communities or some guidelines like you probably can't get a mortgage without getting home insurance, so it's like a compulsory thing. Right. And so same with schools and things is that it is not having safety measures or trying to have ways of dealing with problems that is the problem itself. It becomes a problem when you make it the mandated, forced requirement to like engage with that it becomes a bigger issue. And I'm a big proponent of not having a strong one side or the other discussion, but I think the real goal that everyone should have with politics is to try and figure out where is that negotiation line, where we're never going to find like a good point to put any subject. The only question is, what is the point where everyone can try to just peacefully live with each other and say like this is at least good enough that we can all get along at least, and that's really the balancing act.
I was going to say the problem is not just with the kids; it's for the adults and the seniors. Mm-hmm. I mean, before I got the job at the nursing home because I'm a nutritionist. I originally got the job in the nutrition department. Then they asked me to be a bartender. But as a nutritionist, I would interview the residents, and I had a questionnaire. All the questions I asked: what do you like to eat? Do you how much do you weigh? I had a whole checklist and stuff. Yeah. But I would look at their medical chart before I'd go visit these people. I had access to it. Every single one of them was on like 10 different drugs. Mm-hmm. So one of them was for diabetes. The other was a diuretic to counteract the effect of the diabetes medicine. The other one was to counteract. It was like, and I had to understand how the drugs interacted with food and with each other and stuff like that. So the old people are on millions of these pills, all of them. Yeah. And a lot of adults are also. This Ozempic thing with this, the GLP-1s. Yeah. I'm reading articles about this. This is the kind of thing I read about in my journal articles. People think, oh, it's a miracle drug. Oh, it's great. I don't have to exercise. I can eat whatever I want, take this drug. No, it has a lot of side effects. A lot of things they're going to discover 10 years down the road. Now you got bone loss. Now you got cancer. Now you got liver disease. It has a lot of effects, and people just, there's no easy solution. It's just you got to eat right and exercise. Just like Jacqueline said, it's not, you can't just take a pill. But people, we're in a society, they just want to take a pill for everything.
It's astonishing that it doesn't matter how many times we go down this road as humans, we just can't stop ourselves. We need to find the one easy solution that just solves all of our problems. And we see this over and over again. We see this with money. We see this with weight loss. We see this even in politics, where the solutions that people try to propose is always supposed to be the easy thing that if we just did that, it would fix everything. And it's like, that's not how the world works, guys. Things take work and effort and long-term thinking. Sometimes you'll get lucky and it'll be a fast solution, but the assumption that we have to live by and have always had to live by for all of human history is that if you want to achieve meaningful results, you have to work at it and sacrifice for it.
Yeah, a lot of issues are very complex, but people think it's all black and white. It's either this or this, but you're right, it's not like that. But as you said, it's more so in this culture, in America. In other countries, it's not quite as bad, but in this country, it's like, we're much more in that mentality of let me just take a pill to fix myself and let me just have the easy solution. Other cultures, it isn't quite so bad like that.
I remember watching an episode of that old show, My 600-Pound Life, I think is what it was.
Yes.
So one of the things that I really appreciated about the doctor in that, and I disagree with the practice of interventional fat removal. I think that that's just not a good way to go. But I appreciated at least that he actually wouldn't operate on anybody without having them demonstrate that they could change their habits first.
Oh.
So he would always have them do some amount of exercise or some amount of dieting.
Right.
And then if they could consistently keep to that, then he would help them with interventionary. Because what he would always tell them is, if I remove the weight from you, and then you go back to the same habits, the same eating habits, the same lifestyle, you will get the weight back, but then you're going to have scar tissue and you are going to injure yourself. It is going to cause you substantial harm if I operate on you and then you don't change how you got there in the first place. And I've always appreciated that perspective because it would be great if more doctors would have that kind of mentality about helping people, because it's usually, not always, but it's usually something that we did to ourselves. Usually, like at least, especially in America, but I think this is true of most people, is that a lot of the medical stuff is due to ignorance or bad habits.
Definitely. I mean, I did a magic comedy show many years ago with my daughter Rachel when she was very young, and it was for a bunch of doctors, and the show was sponsored, or whatever, the whole event was sponsored by one of the big pharmaceutical companies, Novartis, I think it was.
Yeah.
And it was at a country club. It was the most posh, luxurious. They had lobster and caviar and brandy and all this stuff, real fancy schmancy. And, we did our show. I remember I did my comedy show and stuff like that. And then my daughter Rachel was like 7 years old. She did stand-up comedy also. She was very... And I remember some people arrived late and they go, "Can you do your show again?" I'm like, "You want me to do it again?" "No, not you. We want to hear your daughter. We want to hear you." Okay. But I was just amazed. And this is what they do with the doctors. The big drug companies sponsor these events and they feed them and wine and dine them and stuff like that. And then they now prescribe our medication. But it's terrible. And like I said, other countries, they don't do that. You don't go to Europe and see all these pharmaceutical commercials and all that big pharma stuff like that. But in this country, they're extremely powerful.
Well, if you look into how oxycodone and opiate addictions certainly took the country by storm within recent years, that was directly because of our precautionary practices not being adequate to stop pharmaceuticals from doing the exploitation that you're describing right now, for sure.
Yes.
Speaking of dynamic shows, because I don't want to, I want to make sure that we're focusing more on you, and I don't want to put you in a position where you're now all of a sudden on a politics podcast. But no. So speaking of your shows and things, you mentioned in your email that apparently you've done a show at a nudist resort. Obviously, we're going to have to get into how does that happen, first of all, and what were your thoughts when you were presented with the opportunity?
Well, I've done several shows, actually. The first one I just did comedy. I worked with another guy. He was a ventriloquist, and it was at a nudist resort, Paradise Lakes or somewhere like that. That was one of the funniest things that ever happened in my life. I guess he got the show, and then he brought me along because we used to work together. His name was Marc James, very talented ventriloquist. And the funniest thing was we're at the place, and I'd never been to a nudist place before, and everybody's walking around naked. I'm like, okay, whatever.
Right.
It's kind of a little, he got used to it after a while, but so we're doing the show. And I went up first. I did my comedy bit, and I did really well. I got good response from they tell you to undress the audience. In this case, I did the opposite.
Right.
I put clothes back on the audience. It wasn't a pretty sight, you know what I mean? Yeah. And then Marc James went up there. He finishes off his set with his bit. He puts an Elvis mask on somebody from the crowd. So he pulls up this lady from the crowd, And she was sitting right next to me, and she was very intoxicated. I said, oh, no, this is not going to go well. Brings her up on stage. He puts an Elvis mask on her, but he can control the mask. He has a thing. He can make the mouth move. So
I've
she
seen
doesn't
those.
so she doesn't have to do anything. So he plays this Elvis song, and then he has her up there doing the thing and singing the song. And he can, as I said, he can control the thing and also the voice and stuff. So you don't hear her, but she's doing Elvis. He goes, okay. So she starts dancing. So he puts on the thing. I've seen him do this bit like 20 times, but so she's up there doing it, and then she just takes her robe off, and her boobs are flying all over. It was the fun.
Oh my gosh.
I've never laughed so hard in my life. The audience was just in hysterics. That was the first time I'd nudist resort. That was just basically comedy. Not too long ago, about a year or so, or 2 years ago, I got an offer to do a magic show. I don't know. I think it was on, there's different websites I get magic shows. There's one called bark.com, another's Gig Salad, Thumbtack. Anyway, so I got a lead on that, and I got the show. And I think the guy's name was Tony, actually, and he lived at a place. And he goes, I want you to come out. I'm having a barbecue for 4th of July, whatever it was. I want you to do some magic. So I said, okay. So I went and went to the show. I have a comedian friend of mine. Her name is Tracy. She lives at one of those places. So I asked her for advice. I said, before I go there, do you have any advice you can give me? She goes, yeah, just act natural. Don't make a point of
Don't
jokes,
make it a scene.
a thing about, you're all naked, just because it's normal to them.
Right.
So you have to act like it's normal to you. I said, okay, that's good advice. So I did my thing, and they're always, all the girls were up there. Take your shirt off. Take off your clothes.
Of course.
So eventually, about halfway through, I got up there. I took my shirt off, and they're all like, oh, like this stuff like that. So it went pretty well, and I got and the guy gave me a tip and everything. It was great. And then he brought me back the next year. Same thing, barbecue. This guy Tony. This time I was ready. I said, okay, now I'm going. So, as soon as I walked out, I took my shirt off.
I'm like, just embrace it.
It's like, hey, nothing up my sleeve, stuff like that. But it was funny, and like I said, but I didn't joke. I didn't make fun of jokes about nudity and stuff like that. But I did much better because I knew what to expect, and they were more. I connected with them better because I knew what was.
You got a better sense of their the culture of a nudist colony and that kind of stuff.
But as I said, very quickly you get used to it. At first, it's like, oh my God, he doesn't have any clothes on and stuff. You try to avoid the glance, but you can't help it. It's like, but then after, like I said, the second time, I was very comfortable there, so it went very well, and I'm sure he's going to bring me back again. But that was a fun time.
Yeah, goodness gracious. What's the most unexpected thing, or the way that I really enjoy phrasing that is, what's the craziest thing that's ever happened to you at a job? Like while you were on the clock working something, what's one of the more wild stories that you've had happen?
Just as a sidetrack, you talk about lessons to learn and stuff.
Yeah.
I believe we did a show where we met, and you brought out a generator because the power went out.
Yes.
And you went to your car, got a generator. I got a generator now because of that. So I use it now because I do balloon twisting and stuff like that. And sometimes I'm at a place and there's no place to plug it in, so I can do that. So that's one of the lessons I learned. I just saw that there.
Well, I'm so glad to have inspired you about it. So how that happened was because as a wedding DJ,
yes,
I would do ceremonies that they wanted to be in exotic locations.
Right.
And so there was a time, the first time it ever happened to me where somebody wanted something that was going to be like 100 feet away from where the reception was happening. I did not have a spare power supply, but the venue happened to have one that was far enough away that was close enough that with my 2 extension cords and their 2 extension cords, we just happened to have long enough power supply to make it work.
Right.
And that was the moment that I was like, okay, I got lucky this time, but I definitely got to get a portable power supply for next time. So from that moment forward, I had that little power block available to me so that it doesn't matter if I do a wedding on a beach, in the middle of a forest, on a mountain.
Right.
I can literally take a speaker and my microphone set up anywhere, and I'll have about 4 to 5 hours of power.
Well, a crazy thing did happen one time when I was at doing stand-up comedy. It was many years ago. It was an open mic comedy show, and there was a bunch of us, like 7 or 8 open micers and stuff. And there's one guy. I don't remember his name, but he wasn't very funny. And I had actually brought somebody with me, somebody I just met, and I brought him with me to see the show and stuff like that. Well, this guy that I brought to the show, he started heckling the guy up on stage. And like I said, he wasn't very funny. But so the comedian Right in the middle of his act, this guy's like heckling. He's like, "You suck," or something like that. He walks off the stage.
Oh.
He walks over to the guy. He pushes him like that, knocks him down. He almost injured him because it was like a stairway, but his head almost hit the thing. Knocked him down that. Didn't say a word. Just pushed him like that, knocked him down. Walked back up on the stage. He just went right back into his act like nothing happened. I'm like, wow, that's why I've never heard of that way to deal with a heckler. So that was pretty crazy.
That's the way to handle it.
I still remember that. That was a pretty funny thing. But I was like, wow, that's one way to deal with a heckler. It was like, what?
I'm like, man, I've seen some roasts. I've seen people, verbally assault somebody from the audience. But
right.
Man, okay, yeah, he was just done.
Yeah, I have a lot of what I call heckle comebacks.
Yeah,
but I don't get heckled for a lot of reasons. One reason is I'm a very fast-paced. I don't even give them time to stuff like that.
Right.
So if I say, well, if they don't like that joke, I just go right on to the next. But I don't get heckled. I guess I have a few times, but I have little jokes that I say to people, even if they don't heckle me, just to insert it into the line. Like somebody will say something like, this guy, he's not too bright. It takes him an hour and a half to watch 60 Minutes or something like that.
Right.
I say, I'd love to give you a penny for your thoughts, but I'm Jewish. I don't want to overpay you.
No.
So I have all these insults that I lay on these people, even if they don't say anything, just because it gets the crowd laughing. It shows that I'm not just doing a memorized bit, but I'm actually interacting, which is what I've learned over the years with the stand-up comedy especially, is that I used to just have a set list. Okay, these are the jokes I'm telling. This joke, this joke, this joke. But now I'm much more flexible and I have a much wider range of material. So if I'm doing a show and it's like, oh, they like the Jewish jokes. Okay, I'll do a bunch of Jewish jokes. Oh, they didn't like those jokes too much. I'll do more of these. Oh, they like the dirty stuff. Okay, I don't like to be dirty, but I can adapt it so like that. So I'm more flexible now. And same with the magic also. I cater it to the audience and stuff like that. So like I said, if I'm doing it for kids, I have certain material I do. For older people, I do this and stuff like that. That's one of the lessons I've learned, is to be flexible with the comedy and to adapt it to the audience and stuff like that. But I used to be very, very offensive. Like I was deliberately trying to offend everybody. Like I'm politically incorrect, and I make fun of everybody. I make fun of gay people and Jewish people and black people. Everybody. I make fun of everybody.
Right.
I don't do that anymore. Yeah. I do it a little bit. I make fun of myself, a little self-deprecation and stuff like that. I'll say like, when I was younger, I got picked on a lot. All the kids on the block, they used to laugh at me and make fun of me. So I showed them I became a comedian. Yeah, nobody's laughing now. You know, so it sounds like I'm bragging about something, but I'm actually putting myself down. So I'm not as offensive anymore. I've learned to kind of, as I said, I don't want to piss off people in the crowd and stuff like that. I want everybody to be on my side, and I want to win them over. But also in my mind, while I'm performing, while I'm on stage, I try to put out a positive energy. Like, I love you people. I love you guys. And a lot of times that comes back to me and stuff like that. So I've learned a lot with the comedy and stuff. As I said, I used to have just a set thing, but now I'm much more flexible, and I cater to the crowd. And if somebody says something, I'll try to work that into the show, which is, for me, has always been the hardest part about comedy. I've always been a good writer. I could write a good joke, but it's very hard for me to spontaneously come up with something like that. I admire comics that can do that. Go up to the crowd, oh, where are you from? What do you do? And then whatever they say, they got a funny line and stuff. I'm getting to that point, but to me, that's really the essence of being a really good comedian, is to be able to do that. That's not my forte. As I said, my forte is right. I can hear a story in the news and I can write a joke about it. Usually it's a wordplay joke. But the other thing that my comedy has evolved is I used to do like a lot of just one-liners, very disjointed. Hey, I dated a girl with a lazy eye. I found out she was seeing someone else on the side, something like that. Now it's more of a natural story.
Yeah,
hey,
you like the setup and payoff kind of
right.
stuff.
So now it's just instead of all these disjointed jokes that have no connection to each other, now I'm just telling a story. Hey, I work at a nursing home, and then I do the jokes about the nurse. Oh, I work as a school teacher. I do jokes about, or stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's more organic, it's more natural and stuff like that. So my comedy style has evolved a lot. When I first got into comedy, the way I got into it was, well, of course, my dad would always begin his sermons with a humorous story. So he was like a one-liner. He was like Henny Youngman and stuff like that. Yeah. So that's where I get the humor from. But I was waiting tables for many years. And I noticed that if I told jokes, I got a bigger tip.
Yep.
So that's helped me a lot.
Laugh.
And I always have, it was like the same joke I do to every table. I go, how'd you like the food? Oh, it was great. I said, I cooked it myself. They go, wow, you're a good cook. I said, I wish my wife could cook. I said, we had our anniversary. I said, where do you want to go for your anniversary? So she's like, take her. She says, I want to go someplace I've never been before. I said, how about the kitchen? That's an old, that's a Henny Youngman joke. It's like 85 years old. But I would do the same joke and I'd get a big tip. They'd laugh. And people started telling me, you're really funny. You should be a comedian. I'm like, I didn't really want to be a comedian. I'd been doing magic for many years, but I knew how hard it was. I know it looks easy, the good ones, but that's a hard thing to do. But they kept telling me. So I went to Side Splitters in Tampa, and I entered a contest, a Jose Cuervo comedy contest many years ago. One of the judges was Larry the Cable Guy. His name is Dan Whitney. Yeah. He was one of the judges. There was 3 judges, and I won the contest. I hadn't been doing comedy at all, and I won the contest, and he told me something after the show. He goes, you got something a lot of comedians don't have. I said, what's that? He said, structure. Setup, punchline. Most comedians just go up there and just start riffing and telling stories and wandering. I said, you're very structured and stuff like that. And I said, that's because I wrote, when I first got into comedy, I read books about how to write a joke. Yeah, it's I read books by Bob Hope's writer Gene Perret. He was his main comedy writer, and also by the other guy who had the show on The Tonight Show, Steve Allen. Books about how to write jokes. And writing a joke is basically connecting 2 ideas. So you have have this idea, and you try to bring them together, and there's a lot of different, but it's a formula. It's almost like a mathematical thing. Yeah. So that's how I learned how to write a joke. But most comedians don't do that. They just say,
because that sounds like nerd stuff.
Right. Oh, you're funny at a party. You should do comedy. That's how most people do it. But I took it very seriously. I studied it and how to write a joke.
So I think you'll appreciate it. So with me, there are 4 main things that I really enjoy. I love theology, psychology, linguistics, and music. And so anything that has to do with any of those are things that I just really love talking about. And so there are times when I'll make people laugh. People who know me well and people who hang out with me long enough, eventually I'll do something that's going to be funny for them. And so I've had the same thing. People are always like, oh man, that was so funny. You're funny a lot. You should get into comedy.
Right.
And I'm one of those kinds of people where I take things to my room and I think about it for the next 4 years. So, ruminating on this idea, I came to the conclusion that the reason why that did not feel like a good avenue for me to pursue was because, in my estimation, there are 2 modes of comedy. You have jester comedy and clown comedy. And clown comedy is the idea of making a situation funny, making something funny in the moment, showing people something that they weren't expecting, that kind of stuff. Jester funny is the idea of reframing something in a way that people would not have thought of themselves, or in a way that they didn't. And it's just taking something that they thought they knew and shaping it in a way that makes sense that they didn't realize would make sense if you shaped it that way. And so the reason I frame it as jester funny is because in old like king's courts and things, the role of a jester wasn't just to tell jokes. It was also to say the things that the people at the court were thinking out loud in a way that everyone could have fun together and diffuse the tension. So
without offending the king,
right? Without offending the king, that was the one thing. Without or embarrassing the king either, right? And so if you would have some noble couple who were overdressed for the occasion because they were trying to impress everyone, the jester might try to find a way to make that funny and say it out loud, so that they are not being gossiped about behind their back, and everyone else can kind of feel the relief from having thought those thoughts themselves and not known what to do with them. And so with jesters, they had this actually really important, significant role in that sort of high society. And with comedians, we see a lot of that happening, where a lot of times the comedian will either say something out loud that everyone has been thinking and just don't know a fun way to think those thoughts, or to take a mundane frustration that people wish they could enjoy, but it's always just an unpleasant situation of, one audience members going to the gas station becomes another man's war zone, so it's just like, it's just sometimes you can reframe things in a way that helps people to alleviate the stress of everyday lives and things. So one of the things that I've been trying to think about is, what is it that how do you approach a normal situation to frame it in a way that is funny? Because for me, for instance, one of the reasons why I don't think I would make a good comedian is because I'm too straightforward, where
Right.
I take things too literally, I take things too sincerely. And so if, for instance, someone is embarrassed about something, I'm not likely to be the person who teases them and jokes with them about it. I'm more likely to be the person who consoles and tries to help them to see the embarrassment from a more mature perspective and say, it's okay, you're not going to die. This is just a temporary thing. What is it that you do to approach something that could be taken from a sincere perspective and change it to a more comedic approach? How do you shape those kinds of stories into a joke?
Boy, that's a pretty hard question. It's more an instinctive kind of thing.
Fair.
When I write comedy, I used to carry a notebook, a little notepad with me, and if I thought of something, I'd write it down. Now it's on my phone, of course. I talk into it.
Fair.
And I get a lot of my ideas while I'm riding my bicycle. I ride my bicycle like 20 miles a day, so I ride a lot and stuff like that. When my brain is really, the blood's pumping and I get very thoughts and stuff like that. But I listen to people's conversations a lot. And like I said, I'm a word guy. I hear words, or even people on the news and talking like that. I'll hear stuff and I'm like, there's some kind of joke there. And I'll write down the premise and stuff like that. Then later on, I'll analyze it and stuff like that. I don't have actually a set way or the way that I can actually describe how I do it, but I've been doing it for a long time now, and I'm getting better at it and stuff like that. So, like if I write I have probably like 10 premises every day I'll write down. Maybe one or two of those might actually become a real joke. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times after I write it, I'll say to myself, that's funny. That's going to work. And then I'll try it out and stuff. Not at a paid show. I'll do it like in an open mic, or I'll try it for the residents where I work, which there's great work in there because I can try out the stuff and they're a great crowd and stuff like that. So I'll try it out and stuff like that. And they go, that's pretty funny, Dan. I like that. But I don't really have a set way that I do it, but that's how I write jokes.
Yeah.
But
do you have a frequent starting point? Because you say you start with the premise. Are there times where you'll start with the punchline, or you'll start with the setup, or that kind of stuff?
Actually, usually I come up with the punchline first.
Got it.
Which is how it works. It's usually like a wordplay thing, like, oh, this word sounds like this word, and so I come up with it that way, and then I come up with a setup or the setup later. I'll give you an example of a joke that I have not actually completed yet. The punchline is milk of amnesia, because there's milk of magnesia. You take that for like a stomach problem stuff. So the punchline is milk of amnesia. Yeah. So I'm going to tie it into the residents where I work at the nursing home. His stomach was upset, so he took milk of amnesia, but he forgot. But I don't have the joke yet. Right. But that's how I do it. I have the punchline first, then I have to come up with a setup that leads up to it and works in. But when I do my, as I said, when I do my kids shows, I have a lot of jokes for the adults. I'm doing tricks for the kids, but I have jokes for the adults. But I do a lot of science-based tricks because I teach science. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I really try to do tricks that, or even with my jokes too, I try to do stuff that nobody else is doing. I try to be as original as possible. So all the magic tricks I do, I don't use gimmicks. A lot of magicians, I have a lot of magician friends, they use a lot of gimmicks, and they buy these things online, fake devices and things like that. And a camera turns into a pack of gum or what, things like that. I don't like that stuff. I just like to use everyday objects like a pair of scissors, a straw, a drinking glass, and I do science tricks, talk about air pressure and inertia and gravity and things like that. And as I said, and then I get the kids into it, and I tell the kids, I actually have a shirt that says, it goes, I said, this isn't magic, this is science, and you can do it. And then at the end of the show, I teach the kids how to do some tricks. Did teach them some simple tricks. You said you were into psychology. Mm-hmm. I'm going to show you a trick that I do for the kids.
Yes.
And it's a psychology.
Yes, please.
It's a psychology trick here. Okay. All right. So, but I talk about, the name of the trick is called mind control. And then this is the one that I teach the kids how to do after the show.
I saw the card and I was like, I am very excited for whatever's happening with this.
So I talk about mind control. I pull somebody from the audience and I say, I'm going to control this guy's mind. I say, I know you wish you could do that as a parent or a teacher. I wish you could. I said, I'm going to make this guy do what I want him to do. Doesn't matter what he wants to do. I'm going to impose my will upon him. And I said, this happens every day when you watch a TV commercial. That's what they're doing. They're influencing your behavior. And a lot of times they do it subliminally. You're not even aware of it, but they're making you buy their product.
Right.
Well, I'm going to make you buy my product. And then I hand them the envelopes. I here, take that. So I'm going to make, there's a prediction in there. I'm going to make you, I'm going to make you do what I want you to do. So I have 2 piles on the table here. Let's see. Yep, 2 piles. And then I give them the magic wand. I do more stuff about the commercials, but we already talked about that. And then I say, here's my magic wand. I say, here you go. So what I'm going to have you do in just a moment, you're going to touch one of these piles with the magic wand. Whichever pile you touch is the one I said you would predict.
Got it.
Go ahead. You touch one of the piles. That one. Okay, let's count the cards and see how many are in the pile that you picked. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the one you picked. The other one has 4 cards. So you picked the one with 6 cards, the 6th pile. Now open up the envelope, and there's a piece of paper. Take it out and read what it says. What does it say? You picked the 6th pile. Impossible. There we go. And then I don't know if I'm allowed to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. And then I take it out and I go and I show everybody. I say, see, it says you picked the 6th pile. And then, like I said, then I light it like that. And they go, whoa, that was cool. And they go, where'd it go? I'm like, yeah. Cool. And then that's the trick. It's over. But then at the end of the show, I teach them how to do it. I go, you want to learn how to do it? I said, you can do it. It doesn't take any skill. It's psychology.
Yes.
And when you said psychology, that's what I said, how to do it. Okay, so I had 2 piles on the table. If they picked this pile, I said, let's count the cards. But if you had picked this pile, I would have said something totally different. I would have said, let's turn the cards over. What do we got here? Random cards. What's in this pile? Look, it's all 6s.
Oh my gosh, it's beautiful.
So they're both the 6th pile. One has 4 6s. The other has 6 cards.
Right.
And then I teach them how to. I see that's how that's the essence of magic. That's why a magician never does a trick twice.
Right.
Because it's the same thing, kind of like with humor too. You don't want to tell a joke twice because they'll know where you're going. The end of it is the surprise with a twist at the punchline of the joke. But you don't want to do a trick twice because then they'll be able to look and see what you're doing and they'll be able to figure out what's going on. But that's an example of how psychology is used in my show. And then, as I said, then I teach the kids how to do it. And then I give them a deck of cards because I go through a deck of cards like with every show. Then I give the kids a deck of cards. I go, here, you can do it too. And I give it away to them and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I give out my business cards and stuff like that. So
oh my gosh.
that's an example of how I teach the kids how to do magic. And it's just, they love it. And they're all asking me, I answer all their questions. Like, how'd you do the rope trick? How'd you do this trick? And I show them how to do it and stuff like that. So they're really engaged.
That's so cool. I don't know what the rope is for, but we're going to get to that later.
Yeah.
I want to save it.
Yeah, okay.
Regarding technology and modern times, for me, I am what I would call millennial competent. And so because of the fact that I grew up alongside of modern technology, where when I was a child, the idea of a phone that could leave the house was unheard of. And then by the time I was in high school, it was assumed that everyone would have one. And so I grew up alongside of it. And so I got to have a very unique perspective on what technology is, how to interact with it. Nowadays, you have infants who grow up with an iPad in their hands and they can intuit how to use technology. But by the time they're in high school, a lot of times kids don't really understand why the things work. They just know that they do and they know how to operate them. Obviously, the kids who really want to dig into that, they're more than capable of researching and getting into all of that as long as they can maintain the attention span to actually study. But it is... Technological proficiency has always been an interesting observation because when it comes to, for instance, AI, where that fits in for me is that I have enough baseline competence to be able to ask the right questions.
Right, that's what it's all about, asking the right questions.
Right. And so what I've seen with a lot of folks on the older generation is that sometimes they just don't know how to phrase things. Like, how do you ask an AI to give you something if you don't even know what it's called. And then with the younger generation, sometimes they just don't think in critical ways to analyze a problem and say, what is the problem that I'm even trying to solve here?
They don't know how to communicate effectively so that
Right.
the thing can give them the right answer.
Right. And so this is where I think a lot of current culture has broken down, is in cross-generational connection. Because if we could merge all three generations between the older folks who can critically problem solve, but just don't know how to ask the right questions, and the younger generation who understand the technology but don't know how to problem solve, then we would be a lot better on. And I think that's where a lot of social anxiety comes from as well, is in just not having a good psychological presence in culture and society. What has your journey been like when it comes to technology and social media and the changing marketing strategies? Because you've been in business doing what you do for 50 years now?
I've been doing magic for over 50
Magic
years.
for 50
I just
years.
turned 65 years old.
Dang.
But I still have the body of an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
It's in the trunk of my car. I'm kidding. It's in my basement. But anyways,
So I love your sense of humor, first
Thank
of all.
you.
But yeah. So how does that play out for you over the years? You have seen so many different. I mean, you would have had to. You come from a time where you would have put your information into like the classified ads of a
that's
paper,
right. That's my father did that for me. He
Yeah.
actually would put an ad in the newspaper and say, "Hey, Houdanny the magician can do a magic show," and
Right.
I would do that right. But I resisted it a lot. I'm trying to be more open to it and welcoming. But I remember when cell phones used to become popular. I'm like, I don't want to go. I had a house phone. Like, I got my house phone. I had an answering
call
machine
people
on
if I
there.
want.
Right. What do I need a cell phone for? I don't want that. And then I went with my daughter, Rachel. We went to the beach one time and we got separated and I didn't know where she was. So I said, can I borrow your cell phone and call? And then I said, I need to get a cell phone just for situations like that. If I'm on the road, there's an emergency, I need to call. So I eventually got it. And as I said, I've always kind of resisted, but now my mindset has changed. Now I'm like, I want to do everything I can to get my message out there. As I said, I appreciate doing this podcast, and I want to get on Facebook. I want to get on TikTok, whatever the kids are doing. So I ask a lot of the young people, how do I do that? Or I talk to them and stuff like that. So as I said, I used to resist it, but I don't anymore. Now I'm trying to learn all I can about, like you said, social media and getting and communicating and get my message. Because I think I have a very unique thing that I'm offering.
Yeah.
It's very different. And as I said, my humor is all original jokes that I write. My magic is much different than other magicians. As I said, I go see magicians all the time. I just went with my friend, a good friend of mine. His name is Peter Michael. He's a fantastic magician. He's like Vegas-style magician. He does these big illusions and everything. He uses a lot of gimmicks and stuff like that. I don't like that and stuff, but he's extremely skillful and dexterous, and we're good buddies. We went and seen a magician. We've seen several magicians together, and it just seems like all the magicians do like the same tricks. Oh yeah, I've seen that trick. And I know we're magicians and stuff like that, but still, I mean, we can figure out how he does it, but that's not the point. It's just, they just seem to do the same stuff.
It's a force, it's a waterfall, it's all
right.
this stuff.
It just seems like this. Or they do the linking rings, or they do the rope and they cut it. I do a rope trick too, but
it's a modified ball and cup trick. Yeah.
So I think I have something very original that I do. Like I said, I want to stand out from the crowd.
Yeah.
I want to be something different. I want to get on TV shows. I want to get my message across. I'll volunteer. I've volunteered for many organizations. My daughter Rachel and I, we've done benefit shows doing comedy and magic for everybody, from American Heart Association, Big Brother, Big Sister, American Cancer Society. I was named the Volunteer of the Year Award. I got the Volunteer of the Year Award from the American Lung Association because we did a lot of stuff to raise money for asthma research and stuff like that. But I'm always happy to do free of shows, and I especially like doing it for the veterans. My yarmulke goes off to the veterans because I tell people, they call me a hero as a teacher. Oh, you're a hero. I don't like to be called a hero.
Yeah.
A hero to me is somebody who risked their life for other. The military people, they go back and they come back with their limbs are missing.
Right.
They got PTSD or they're dead. Those are the heroes to me. Those are the people that are risking their life so that we can live in this wonderful country. I'm so happy and so lucky and grateful to live in this incredible country. Sure, it's not perfect. It's stuff like that. But we live in a place where if you work hard and you have a dream, and I'm a big, Arnold Schwarzenegger is another one of my idols. I've met him twice.
Great example.
And it's just, he shows, and he has a book out now. He's talking about be useful. And he's talking about all the rules to success, and give back to the community and work your butt off and stand out from the crowd and stuff like that. And so that's my thing. I want to stand out from the crowd. I want to have a message, and I wanted to get it out there. And so social media is a big part of that. So I'm really trying to learn how to connect with stuff. And I'll do benefit shows for anybody. I'll do it for the veterans and stuff like that. Because like I said, they call me a hero, but I'm not a hero. I was named, when I worked at Sprouts Farmers Market for a while, I got an award, the Healthy Living Hero Award, because of my doing magic shows for kids and spreading nutrition information and stuff like that. And I've listed in Who's Who also. Yeah. I'm in Who's Who again for my, doing magic and nutrition magic and stuff like that. So
have you, now you don't have to reveal anything here, but do you have a trick that has astonished other magicians where you performed in front of magicians? They were just like, there's no way that's a real thing. Like,
Actually, there is. Actually, I've been to two magic conventions. The first one I went to was in Columbus, Ohio, 3 years ago. And I went to another magicians convention in Las Vegas about a year ago. And I met some of the big names. I met Penn and Teller, David Copperfield, and my favorite modern day magician, David Blaine.
Really?
He's my favorite magician modern day because he does tricks like Houdini. I'm Houdanny. Right. He does endurance stunts, and he does tricks that aren't just hard to figure out but seem impossible.
So he was actually the first major magician that I knew the name of. I knew his name before I knew Houdini.
Really?
Yeah.
So I do magic tricks, and I tell people I do tricks with coins, illusions with rope, and miracles with a deck of cards. I'm going to do a really quick trick for you. Now, this is a trick that I do when I first meet somebody. They go, "Oh, you're a magician? Let me see a trick." First I do maybe a coin or a rope trick, but then I say, "Oh, you want to see a card trick?" Now, this trick I did, well, I'll do it for you right now. Okay, cut the deck a little bit here. Okay, I want you to, most of my tricks start the same way. I want you to take about half the deck, half the cards, and put it right over there for me, please. Okay, half the deck. There you go. Now, this trick is called Dayenu, and I invented this trick. Dayenu is a Hebrew word, and I'll tell you what it means in just a minute. Okay. But as I said, I did this trick for David Blaine, and he did a trick for me. He did a card trick. And I guessed how he did it. I couldn't see him. He's too good. I said, "I think you did this. I think you did this, and then you did this." He goes, "You're right." But when I did this trick for him, he thought he figured it out until the end. It has kind of a surprise ending. I know I'm giving away. I'm not supposed to, but
I mean, I just don't want you to feel like you have to.
No,
you're welcome.
I love doing this stuff. Okay. I love doing it. Okay, so this is your card you cut to. Now here's what's going to happen. I'm going to turn away or turn my back, and when I do that, you're going to look at the card, memorize it. You can show it to the camera if you want, and then put it face down.
Okay.
All right, you do that.
All right, face down.
Yep. There you go. Now, I'm going to spread out the cards. I want you to pick up the card and stick it into the deck anywhere you want. Just stick it face down in there somewhere. I don't care where you put it. I'm not going to see where you put it. Jam it in there somewhere. I have a sexual joke, but I'm not going to tell it.
Okay.
Now we're going to keep it clean. I'm a comedian, not a commodian. I don't do toilet jokes and stuff like that, or sexual stuff. I used to, but I don't like to do that. So then I tell people, I said, I specialize in close-up magic. I said, if I see a magician on stage and he does this big illusion, I said, I'm not impressed. I figure it's a gimmick or a trap door or mirrors, but if he comes right up to me like this and does it right under my nose, that's impressive to me. It's called close-up magic. It takes skill, it takes dexterity. And again, I don't turn my back, I don't go around the table, I do it right in front of your nose. Okay. Now, I said, do you consider yourself an observant person?
Pretty observant.
Did you notice I'm wearing two different shoes?
I did not. No. Okay.
Now, that split second that you just looked down, I just found your card, and I flipped it face up in the deck. In that split second. You ready?
Yeah.
Here we go. We're going to see.
Dang.
Now, you think the trick's over.
Okay.
Now I tell people what Dayenu means. This is the point where, like I said, David Blaine is like, I think I know how you did it. I said, no, the trick's not over yet. Dayenu is a Hebrew word. It means that's enough, or that would be good enough. If I just did that alone, not only was able, but it gets even better. Not only was able to figure out your card, locate it, and flip it face up right under your nose. But but I was able to change its color.
What?
Now, everybody thinks I use a trick deck, but I promise you, I don't use a trick deck. And the last trick I do in my show is called the Triple Miracle, and it's even more amazing than this trick here. That's a trick I do quick to show people I'm a really good magician, and not just, I don't do standard tricks like other people. It's like, wow, I've never seen that before. That's because I invented it.
Fast hands is crazy.
The last trick I do is called the Triple Miracle. I use a brand new deck of cards. I have the birthday child or whatever open up the deck and take out the jokers and stuff, and I have them shuffle it. I shuffle it a bunch of times, and then I do an amazing trick, even more amazing than that, called the Triple Miracle. But that's the kind of tricks that I like to do. So people just like, that's impossible. There's no way. I was watching you right there. I say, you can film me. I say, you can walk behind me. I say, if you see a magician on stage, he controls the angle. I'm here, you're there.
Right.
I say, but when I do a magic show, I'm right here. You can walk around me. You can film me. You're not going to see what I'm doing. I've been doing magic for over 50 years.
There's no backstage.
Right. And as I said, I practice and I specialize in that kind of magic where it's like right in front of your face and people just like, that's impossible. So that's the trick that fooled David Blaine. So that like made my day. I got my picture with him and it was like the highlight of my life.
Oh man, that would be such a cool moment.
That's the example of what I do.
No, I love it. Okay, so yeah, fast hands tricks are just insane to me. There are times when someone will literally explain the trick that they're going to do, and then they will execute it. And I'll just be like, I was literally looking for you to do the thing you just said, and I my eyes are broken. I can't. How are your hands faster than my sight? I don't understand how we can move that fast. But yeah, some people are just wild with what people are actually able to achieve, and the kind of micro finesse that you can attain to with your fingers and stuff, dexterity.
When people ask me like they want to like learn magic, some of the kids at the shows and stuff like that, I say to learn how to do tricks like that, you don't learn tricks, you learn basic skills. Mm-hmm. You learn how to shuffle the deck in a certain way where it's not really shuffled, or you learn how to like force a card on somebody, make them pick the card that you want to pick. But it has to be done with what I've learned as I've gotten more mature as a magician is the misdirection is the patter. Patter is what I'm saying.
Right.
When a magician's performing, a good magician, they're always talking. And whatever they're talking about has nothing to do with what's going on.
Yeah.
It's meant to distract you. And I found that humor is the best misdirection. Because when you tell a joke, especially my type of jokes, where you have to think about it, make the connection, as you're making that connection in your brain, you can't do two things at once. Mm-mm. You can't think about that and also try and analyze what it is I'm doing over here. So humor, I find, is the perfect misdirection. So I have a bunch of jokes laced in with the magic and stuff like that to just throw them off, and they're laughing so hard, and then all of a sudden at the end they go, "What? How'd you do that?" Because they're so busy laughing at my jokes that they're not able to pay attention to what I'm doing.
Right. You know, speaking of just us not being aware of how we work sometimes, and you know how misdirection works. Did you know that you are not looking through both eyes at the same time?
I didn't know that.
You have a primary eye that you're focusing through, and then you have a secondary eye that you're using for context.
Really?
And so you can switch. If you really pay attention, you'll notice that you are more aware of like one side of your nose than the other, and it's easiest to see it in action if you rotate so that your nose is more prominent in your field of vision, and then you'll realize that your far eye is the one that's actually focusing through, and your near eye is what snipers would call a dead eye, right? And if you go the other way, it'll be the opposite. Your far eye, because it has the closer object in your field of vision, is going to be the one that's actually doing the focusing.
That's interesting. I never heard that.
Yeah. So if you do that and you play around with it enough so that you start paying attention to where that switch happens, you can actually intentionally, without even moving your head, you can actually choose which eye you're focusing through on command.
Wow, that's really cool. I've never heard that in my life. Like I said, I'm learning all kinds of stuff. That's great. I love to learn. I love to be around, intelligent, witty people that have that aren't like normal people. They have like strange, stuff like that. But
because that's a personal observation. Nobody told me that one.
Really? So it's not like something you looked up in a book. You just figure that out.
No.
See, your mind works like mine. You don't think necessarily like the normal person does. You kind of think what do they call outside the box or whatever like that. You think a little bit differently. And that's a special, in my opinion, that's a special kind of intelligence. That's an intelligence that will make you succeed, I think, in life. If everybody else is doing stuff, they just think they're going through their lives and stuff like that, but you're outside that, you're observing. That's how a comedian is. You're observing everything as an outsider and stuff like that, and noticing things that other people don't notice. That'll make you stand out, and that'll make you successful. In my opinion, that's the type of intelligence. But if and I joke around with the audience, and sometimes I'll do a show, and like I did that show that I just recorded about a week ago, and at the end of the show, I'll say, "Thank you guys for being such a great crowd." I said, you guys are, it's always great to perform for an intelligent, sophisticated audience. I said, but, if I can't find that, I guess you guys are the next best thing. So it sounds like I'm complimenting, then I'll put the little zinger in there and stuff like that. But that's how I say sometimes at my shows.
I think the format for that comedic lineup is apple, banana, something like that, where it's the idea of like presenting a pattern so that people can expect what you're going to say next, and then you break it up with
It's called the rule of three.
Yeah.
Right. You give an example. You give one example. You give another example, and then the third example is the twist or whatever.
Yeah.
But you're right. You set a pattern. It's called the rule of three.
That's beautiful.
That was one of the things I learned about when I was reading the comedy books and stuff like that. How to write a joke. It's exactly. I never heard it called apple, banana, but that's.
It makes sense. I've heard it by another name, but I'm not going to say it on the show.
Okay.
That was the cleaner version. You have brought up your dad's support a couple of times, and we briefly touched on it. But I mean, between things like the name and the buying you books and everything, it sounds like he's just always been really supportive.
Very much so. He's always like, you're going to be on Saturday Night Live one day, and you're going to do this, and you're going to be this. I know you're going to make it. And he was always very gung-ho about my stand-up comedy. Comedy came much later, but the magic and stuff of being a successful entertainer and stuff like that. My father was a huge influence on me. I feel so lucky because I had two incredible parents. As I said, from my father, I got my sense of humor, my love of words, and my public speaking ability and all that kind of stuff because I would watch him. He was an amazing orator. He was like Martin Luther King. He had this rabbinical voice. I can't do it, but and he just captured the audience and stuff like that. I always began his sermon with a humorous story, and he just had such a glow, a light about him. I wrote several poems about him and stuff like that. He's an amazing man, and so I got that from my father, and again from my mother, I got more of the health thing. She had the Jack LaLanne show on, and she was much into very active. She was 80 years old, still playing tennis every day. Both my parents lived to be 96 years old.
Jeez.
And they died peacefully. It wasn't like they were in tubes in the hospital. They just died naturally and stuff like that. So,
that's a gift.
So from my mom, I get my optimism, my love of life, my health, my nutrition, and she always fed us very healthy food. She got that from her mother. Her mother was way ahead of her time. Her mother was named Helen, and she was, eating sprouts and all kinds of stuff, like way before it was popular and stuff like that. She was into natural food and stuff like that. So I get that from my mom. I get the health part and the fitness and everything. And as I said, from my dad, I get more of the entertainment and the stage presence and all that kind of thing. But I have I'm a nutritionist now, and I eat a rainbow salad every day.
Yeah,
and it has 17 different ingredients in it. Goodness gracious! And it's that's what I tell people. People make it very complicated nutrition. They'd say I just met up with a friend of mine. His name's Joe. I hadn't seen him for years. He was the best man at my wedding. He's saying, well, they say that you're supposed to eat carbs in the morning and protein at night, and you're either running on fat or protein. They say. I'm like, stop listening. You're making it too complicated. Yeah. Just eat natural foods, avoid processed foods, and exercise a little bit. It's not that complicated. People make it hard. It's like, and what I found is super smart people, like my brother Barry. He's a genius. He's a lawyer and he's all this stuff. But when it comes to nutrition, they're idiots. I don't know what it is. They make it harder than it has to be. It is not difficult. It's not hard. It's simple. And I have a nutritional seminar that I do. I do one-on-one counseling with people. And I have a nutritional seminar. I've given it to corporations. I've done it at college campuses for classes and stuff. And I talk about basically what I'm talking about right now is just, it's not that complicated. Just eat lots of fruits and vegetables. You can eat other stuff too, but just keep it everything in moderation, variety in moderation, and lots of fiber. I call fiber the forgotten nutrient because people talk about protein and carbs and fat. Fiber is the perfect food. Your body can't digest it, but it's so good. It keeps your digestive system running properly, prevents cancer. It's good for your immune system. It lowers your blood sugar. It does all kinds of stuff. So this is how I get my fiber every day. This is a little picture of my rainbow salad. Wow. That's a picture, and I eat that every single day. That's only half the ingredients. That's 17. I make I call this the base. I put that into a big bowl. Then when I want to actually eat my salad, then I add the wet stuff. Then I take that, I put it into a separate bowl. Tomatoes, avocado, cucumber, kale, broccoli. I add about 5 or 6 other.
The fattiest ranch dressing you can find.
Olive oil and balsamic vinegar is all I put on it. But I eat that every day, and that's how I get my fiber intake. And it's not hard to do. And like I said, once a week I make that big bowl like that, and then every day I eat my salad, and it tastes good. Yeah. See, that's the thing.
I love salads.
Yeah. People say, "Oh, I don't like salad." I'm like, I just want to eat food that tastes good. I'm like, this does taste good. It tastes really good. You don't taste, I don't like cauliflower. I don't like cauliflower either. But you don't taste it. It's all mixed together. You're just eating the whole thing together with the tomatoes and everything. So that's...
I'm no vegan. But I think one of the reasons why sometimes vegans can get a bit of a bad rap is because there are times when they're for sure coping by saying that something tastes the way that they say it does. But there are genuinely some vegan dishes that do actually taste good.
Oh, of course they do. I've had some and they're great.
I've had vegan desserts and vegan meals and things, and there are lots of times when I'm just like, no, that's a perfectly great meal, and nutritionally, they got like the beans and stuff, so you get lots of protein and fiber there, and so it's just that it really has more to do with creativity on it. I'm not a big fan of most of the false meats and things.
Oh, I know. So that's the thing. You're trying to be a vegan, but then it's so processed. It's got all this salt and all these chemicals to make it look or taste like real meat. It's like, if you don't want to eat meat, don't eat meat. That's fine.
Pick a side.
Just have some vegetables and stuff, but don't eat something that's formed into a piece of chicken or something. It's like, because it has all these stuff in it.
And especially don't tell me what it is. Like if you want to play your make-believe game about your fake meat and stuff, by all means, but don't try and pretend like we're gonna play along with that. No.
Because I'm a magician. You can't fool me, man. Especially with nutritional stuff. My body knows what it is, and people's like, well, how do you know that's good for you? How do you know what you do? And it's kind of like the Bible thing. I know because the Bible tells me so.
Right.
My body tells me so.
Yeah.
If I eat a food or something like that, I'm monitoring what's happening. I eat the food. How does it taste? How does it feel? Does my body like it? And I talk to my body. I actually have a name for my body. I'm not going to go into all that, but I have conversations. My body talks to me. I talk back to it. And I'm always asking myself, I'm always monitoring. Am I hungry? Am I thirsty? And I try to monitor. That's what I tell the kids. I do a trick called resonance. And I do a trick about air pressure, and I talk about peer pressure and air pressure. They're both silent, but they're very powerful. And I say, stuff like that. And then I say, you have to listen to your body. I said, your body's always sending you messages. I'm hungry. I'm thirsty. I have to go to the bathroom. I want to exercise. I'm sleepy. I don't feel good. I say, try to listen to your body right away. I said, most people, by the time they become adults, are very good at ignoring their body. Oh, I'm sleepy. I'll take some caffeine. Or I don't feel, or I'm hungry. I'm going to wait. I'm not going to eat now. I say, try to listen to your body right away, because your body will always tell you the right thing to do if you listen to it.
With like cravings and things,
right?
And aches
and I'm against these things. Like I said, this guy Joe Miner I was talking to, and he's telling me, well, they say about intermittent fasting. I'm against that. I don't say the standard things that other nutritionists or dietitians say.
Right.
My motto is, like I said, listen to your body. If you're hungry, eat. You don't have to eat a ton of food, but eat something right away. Don't say, oh, I can't eat till after 4 o'clock. No, listen to your body. Don't go against your body. If you go against your body's going to go against you.
I fast for about 10 hours every day from about 10 p.m. to 8 a.m.
That's exactly what I say. That's perfect. That's why they call it breakfast.
Break your fast,
That's exactly what I say. So but the whole trend is and it's okay if you want to fast every once in a while. It's not going to do you any harm if you do it for, whatever and do that. That's okay. But my mentality, as I said, is to listen to your body, work with your body. Don't go against your body and stuff like that. Because, as I said, and listen to the messages that it sends you and try to respond right away. If you have to go to the bathroom, go to the bathroom right away. Don't, I'll do it later or something like that. Try to do it as soon as possible.
Yeah. Back in high school, people started to say things like, you're really self-aware. And what I would tell them is, I plan on living a while. I should probably get to know me.
That's good. I like that.
A good idea to invest some time to just get to know yourself. Who are you? Where are you going? What do you want? How do you feel about things? Why does your body do what it does? What does your body need you to remember about it in order to take care of it well? There's a lot of things. And I've never had a single second of time that I felt was wasted when trying to get better about how I interact with myself.
Well, that's very unusual because, like I said, you're on my wavelength. Most people are not like that. They're not so introspective about that, about analyzing and stuff. I'm like, what's more important than your health, than your living, and being healthy and stuff? That should be your top priority. Most people, it's way down on the list, like after, first they got to make money, then they got to do this, then they got to take care of the kids. And
some people intentionally avoid getting to themselves, and they're like any distraction that takes them out of themselves.
That's how my brother Barry is like that too. He almost looks down at that, like, right. Oh, that's very base. You should be concerned about the world and helping everybody else. I'm like, yes, I am concerned about the world and helping everybody else. But the only way I can do that is if I take care of my own health first. I have to be healthy. It's like at that airplane, they say, put the mask on yourself first before your kid, because if you're not able to breathe, you're not going to be able. Yep. So I have to be strong and healthy, be able to set an example. And that's why I said when I'm the PE coach at Hillel, I'm out there on the playground. I'm right there with the kids. The other teachers are out there on the phones, and they're not. I'm out there. I'm doing chin-ups, and they're like, "Look at Mr. Silver." I'm like, and people say, "Why you?" I'm like, I have to set a good example for the kids and stuff. Yeah. And I've had a lot of people come up to me. As I said, I ride my bike a lot. I ride my bike 20 miles a day. I've had many people, 5, 10 people come up, neighbors and other strangers come up and go, you're an inspiration to me. I see you out there every single day riding your bike and, doing your thing and stuff like that. And it really motivates me. I said, well, thank you. You just made my day. That's what I want to be. I want to be like Jack LaLanne, the fitness guy who just sets the example. And people's like, wow, this is what it takes. And you don't have to go to the gym.
Yeah.
That's the message. As I said, I used to go to the gym, but that's the message I say is that you don't have to spend all this money and all this time and all this stuff going to the gym and, putting on your leotards and all this other stuff that you do. You can just go out there and just go out and play and run around and stuff like that. Just be a kid.
Yeah. No, and we find that that's the case with a lot of things, is that a surprising number of things that we have to deal with in our lives are simpler than we make it out to be. Yeah,
absolutely right. People overcomplicate it and stuff like that. But, you just got to go out. And what I tell people is if you want to get fit, find an activity you like to do outside. Yeah. I don't care if it's badminton.
Go kayaking or badminton.
Volleyball, whatever you like to do, tennis, whatever.
Just do a thing.
I like to play Frisbee. Yeah. Frisbee's great. You go out to the beach, you go out to the park, you throw, and I also do the disc golf and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm really good at that game.
I'm a big fan of disc golf for sure.
We'll have to go out and play sometime.
I would be happy to. Yeah, anytime. You just let me know whenever you want. I don't want to let you go before we get to the rope trick. What's going on with the rope trick, for sure?
Now, this is a good example. This is another trick I do when I first meet somebody. I do the rope trick for them, and it's a fast trick. And again, it's not the standard trick other magicians do. So I say, this rope, what I'm going to do with this rope is I'm going to tie a knot in this rope. I'm going to tie it so fast you're not going to be able to see it, and I'm only going to use one hand. So I say, then I do all my jokes that go along with it. This is the misdirection. I say, I have experience tying the knot. Because I was married at one time and we had to tie the knot really fast. It was a shotgun wedding. It was so quick they threw minute rice. And then I do other jokes. I said, my wife and I were incompatible because I'm a health nut and she's like a nut job. And, so it used to take her forever to get ready to go out. She had to put makeup on both faces and stuff. I actually called her on the phone the other day. True story. And she told me she was actually diagnosed with multiple personality disorder. So all the jokes that I'm telling in my act are actually true and stuff like that. Now, I called her on the phone. I still keep in touch with her and stuff.
Yeah.
But on my phone, I have her listed as Miranda. Her name is Kathy, but it's Miranda. And that's a reminder to me that everything I say can and will be used against me.
Beautiful.
So I do the jokes and stuff like that. And then I say, okay, so here we go. What? And I tie the knot real fast, and I call that trick not impossible. But I have a bunch of other ex-wife jokes that I do. When I first met my wife, she swept me off my feet, and then she flew away on the broomstick, and we were happy for 20 years, and then we met. It's like,
no.
But you saw my stand-up set that I did recently. I think I did almost all the jokes about my ex-wife. So that's how I try and do it. And as I for many years, as I said, I was a magician first. I got into comedy later on, and I had two shows. I was a magician or a comedian. Now I'm getting to the point. It's very difficult. It took me many years to incorporate the two so that I can do a joke, I can do a trick, and have the jokes in it. When that other joke I did about Dianu and all that other, I have the jokes interspersed in there as misdirection and stuff like that. It took me a long time to incorporate the two, but now I'm getting to the point where I can, as I said, each trick that I do has jokes that go along with it. So I use that as misdirection.
That's smart. Yeah, because it's like a holistic practice where it's not just doing a trick, it is incorporating psychological observations with how people pay attention and how you can manipulate that, as well as skill development for how you can execute it. It's one of the most impressive things about magic tricks, for sure, is that you always have this idea of a combination of different attributes of life between psychology and skill development and props and that kind of stuff.
I love psychology. That was one of my majors. So I like psychology too. And that's, as I said, a lot of the magic tricks I do are totally psychology. Mm-hmm. It seems like I'm doing some kind of magic and stuff like that, like you pick the six pile, something like that. But there's a lot of tricks I do like that where it's like, it's psychology. And I love all that too. I love how you just psych people out. And it's like I'm outsmarting them. It's like, hey, I'm smarter. I don't come across that way. I don't say, oh, I'm smarter than you or anything like that. Right. But that's how I'm thinking. It's like, and they're just sitting there. They're just baffled. It's like, they're trying to figure out, oh, you picked the one closer to you. That's the part. I'm like, no, that's not how it's done. But as I said, I teach the kids how to do that trick, and I teach them the rope trick too. And because it's actually, I am tying a knot. So after the end of the show, I give them a rope and I say, here, I'll teach you how to, you hold it this way and you put your fingers down here. And like, some people can pick it up and the kids can learn it really quick. Other ones, it takes a little bit longer. But I love that aspect of it too, because that's different too. I do the magic show, but then I answer their questions. I go, this is how I'm actually doing it. And you can be a magician too. And they go, I want to be a magician and stuff like that. So it makes me feel good. And the children know that I'm on their level. I'm not some adult preaching to them. I'm a kid just like them. I'm never growing up, and I have my youthful enthusiasm, and they just love that about my show.
Fun fact: enthusiasm means to be filled with the Spirit.
That's right. Yeah, that I know.
It is genuinely an attribute of God to be enthusiastic. It is a virtue that we are to aspire to.
Very good. Yeah. That's excellent. Yeah.
I try to remember that because the amount of energy that I'm talking with right now, this is kind of my default mode. I spend a lot of time in this energy level. So it's something that I have to consciously engage is to say, like, it is a good thing to put in an enthusiastic amount of effort into living and how we engage with other people. So we've got just a few minutes left. I always want to end the show by asking you, first and foremost, what's a valuable lesson that you learned career-wise, something that you wish you had been told earlier or that you had learned earlier on that would have helped you out with the rest of it and that you've got to. And then the other is more of like an overall life lesson, or if there's anything that you wanted to talk about, you're welcome to bring that up too. But those are the main two things that I always like to end on. Okay.
Well, as far as professional lessons that I've learned for my profession, for magic and comedy and stuff like that, it's kind of like what we talked about before. I've learned how to adapt to the crowd, be more flexible and stuff like that, and also not to be so offensive. I used to be I'd go out of my way to do jokes about different groups and politically incorrect and stuff like that. So I've modified that because I want to win them over to my side. I don't want to have people uncomfortable.
Yeah. You'd rather laugh together.
Right. And I don't want to be dirty. Like I said, I can be dirty and I can tell some dirty jokes, but I don't like to do that. My dad called himself a proud prude. So I like to be not offensive. I don't like to, as I said, I don't want to do toilet jokes. I don't want to do, if it makes me feel uncomfortable, if I'm in the audience and a magician or comedian or whatever's doing jokes and like that, it's like, I don't want to be like that. So I've learned, that's one of my things I've learned is to not be offensive, not go out of my way to really offend the audience and stuff like that. And as I said, also in life lessons itself, I would say as I've gotten older, I've tried to, my mom always said, put your family first. And what she meant by that, she says, friends come and go, but your family's always going to be there. You have to make them your priority. So when I was younger, I was more, I guess you could say selfish, I'm still all about my body and health and stuff like that. I'll give you an example. Like I ride my bike every day. I ride twice a day. Sometimes I'd be on a ride for an hour and a half straight, and I would get maybe a message from my daughter, Rachel, text message or something like that. And I say, okay, as soon as I'm done riding, when I get home, I'll respond. Now I don't do that anymore. If I get a text message, even right in the middle of my ride, I'll stop my bike and I'll respond right away to her. So I'm more receptive to that. That's one of the lessons I've learned it's not all about me. Again, I want to take care of my health and I want to focus on that, but I need to be aware of other people in my life and be a little bit more cognizant of, and as I said, respond quickly and stuff like that. I don't want to be, if somebody sends me a message or an email, whatever, I want to get back to them right away and let them know that I'm prompt, attentive, and I care about that person. And the other thing is, like when I do comedy shows, I used to do comedy all the time, do open mics and stuff. And after I was done with my comedy show, I just leave, go home. Now I don't do that anymore. If I go to a comedy show or any kind of show, I hang out afterwards and socialize with the other comedians or other people in the audience and stuff like that. Because I'm learning how to network and stuff. I never was really into all that. Now my consciousness has expanded a little bit. Now I say to myself, okay, well, after the show, I'm going to hang out with a comic and get in good with him and give him my business card, maybe show him some tricks and stuff like that. And I also network when I do magic shows. Like I have a face painter that worked next to me. I got her card, she got mine. Then I get references, and she's like, hey, do you know a face painter? Yeah, I know this lady here. And I'm actually doing a magic show for her in about a week for her son. So I've learned how to network and schmooze with the other things. That was something I never really focused on before. I said, well, if I'm a good comedian, I'm going to get the show. But it's more than that. You have to get in. It's a politics. You have to get in good with the comedy club owner and the bookers and all the other comics. You have to win them over and stuff. So that's one of the things I've learned about that.
That's smart. Yeah, it's a real who you know kind of situation. With both the career and life lesson, both of those are kind of on the same boat where they're both about connecting with the other people, connecting with the other person in the sense of putting yourself in their shoes, sympathizing, empathizing, or otherwise having compassion for where they're coming from and how you're affecting them. So that's really good. I like that.
And also to be punctual. That's the other thing.
Which also goes into caring. Yeah.
Yes, because like I said, when I do magic shows, if I have a magic show and it starts at 11 o'clock, I always get there about 10:30. I get about half hour early. Right. But I leave my house so that I arrive at the venue an hour before the show starts. And in other words, like I said, if I have an 11 o'clock show, I'm going to leave my house at 9 or 8:30 or something like that, like I did that today.
Yeah.
And then I get there, and then I'll just hang out.
Yeah.
I'll get there. I'll find some shady spot. I'll either take a nap, or sometimes I have a lawn chair in my back of my car. I'll pull out the lawn chair and get a little bit of sun. I'll lay out there for about 10 minutes, get a little bit of sun because I like to run sun and fun every day. Yep. So I'll do that. So I get there nice and early, so I'm never late. And a lot of times I'll give up shows. Like I got an offer for a show just yesterday on the website on the Marc thing, and says, it's in Newport Richie at 7 o'clock. Well, I had another magic show at 4 o'clock somewhere else, I think in the Sarasota area. I'm like, that's too quick. Because I do from 4 to 6. It only gives me an hour to get to the next one. I don't want to risk it. Yeah. I don't want to risk a traffic jam or anything. I don't want to get stuck in traffic. So that's another thing is be punctual and always get there way early and stuff. And then I can relax. Once I'm there at the venue, I can relax, maybe meditate in my car or relax for a minute and then go into the show. So that's another one is be punctual all the time.
Absolutely. Yeah, because it doesn't matter how good you are if you didn't actually show up.
It's a good point.
for the very last thing, go ahead and just take a look at the camera. Tell people how they can find you, where they can get connected, what your like social media is, the best way to contact you, that kind of stuff.
Okay. All right. Well, I have 3 business cards I just came out with. I've got several business cards, but so the best way, I am the Astonishing Houdanny, and I have a website. It's AstonishingHoudanny.com, and it tells everything that I do, my unique approach to magic, and for the kids and stuff like that. My name is Daniel Silver. My email address is dansilver@msn.com. And I'm going to give you my phone number is 813-407-1852. And my buddy Peter Michael, my magician friend who taught me how to do balloons about 3 years ago, I'm so grateful to him because that's opened up so many possibilities now. Because I used to get offers for shows and they say, do you do balloons? And I said, no. Okay, we don't want to hire you. So now he taught me how to do balloons about 3 years ago. He taught me how to make a monkey. He taught me how to do like a hat, a sword, and a dog. But now I can make like 25 different animals. So I have this card here. That's the Astonishing Houdanny, Master Magician and Balloon Technician. And then I have this original card, the Astonishing Houdanny Nutrition Magician, right there. And this is the card that my friend, he used ChatGPT to come up with I said, I need a business card to show people I'm just not for kids. I do adult shows too.
Yeah.
So he came up with this one. Somehow he created that, but made me better looking.
Right, yeah.
You look like Frank Sinatra. It's like, well, not really. In this picture I do. But anyway, so now I have my adult card, and this is pretty cool. It says, where deception meets perception, Dan Silver, sleight of hand artist. So I have 3 different shows. So I just want to let people know I do shows for kids. I have totally different shows, and I do a show for adults, and then I do shows also for senior citizens and stuff like that. So, and I want to thank you, Tony, for giving me this opportunity to spread the word about the unique thing that I do. And I'll do free benefit shows for anybody. As I said, I've done it for all different causes. I do it for veterans. I'll do it free of charge. And I'm happy to do that because I want to spread my word about health and nutrition. And magic is the vehicle that I use to do that.
Magnificent.
Thank you.
My pleasure. I hope you have a great rest of your day. You have a show at 4 in a couple of hours.
I think so, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I hope you have a great time at the show. Thanks so much for making the time.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.